Up until WWE transitioned into a PG product in the summer of 2008, chair shots to the skull were a regular feature on television. The sound of a steel bouncing off someone's head was always a sure sign of a big ovation. However, despite the fanfare they received, they were doing lasting damage on wrestlers' brains, meaning some wrestlers who took chair shots to the head on a regular basis now find themselves with CTE as a result. But thankfully, as of the summer of 2008, WWE outright banned all chair shots to the head, with wrestlers receiving heavy fines if they decided to include a chair shot to the head in any of their matches. Other wrestling companies slowly followed this decision, and when wrestling companies decide to allow their talent to perform a chair shot to the head, this is often met with outcry from wrestling fans who have the wrestlers' welfare in the forefront of their minds. But which were the most skull-cracking chair shots of all time? Well, join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 10 of the most sickening chair shots in WWE history. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Number 10. Chris Jericho vs Chris Benoit at the Royal Rumble in 2001. Chris Benoit's passing in 2007 led to a lot of discoveries into the impact that CTE was having on wrestlers. This resulted in fans looking back on a lot of Benoit's matches and seeing him take certain bumps and weapon shots to the head and finding it extremely hard to watch. One of these weapon shots to the head occurred in one of Benoit's best matches between him and Chris Jericho in a ladder match at 2001's Royal Rumble, which would be one of the best ladder matches in WWE history. In one of the spots in the match, Benoit would go for a dive to the outside, but Jericho would counter the dive by hitting Benoit square in the face with an unprotected chair shot. Benoit had no way to protect his face, and without a doubt, this is one of the most dangerous chair shots ever seen on WWE programming. Number 9. Jeff Hardy's chair shot to Brock Lesnar in 2002. And many fans associate Jeff Hardy with taking a lot of punishment. However, over the years, he's been able to dish out as well as he can take it. Rewind back to 2002 when Brock Lesnar had debuted in WWE and was being marketed as the next big thing. His first program in WWE would be against the Hardy Boys, and the feud really helped Lesnar connect to the WWE audience. On the April 8, 2002 edition of Raw, both the Hardys would take it in turns, hitting Lesnar over the head with unprotected chair shots over and over again. At one point in their brawl, Jeff Hardy would hit Lesnar with, without a doubt, one of the loudest chair shots in history. And amazingly, it didn't even knock the future WWE champion down to his knees. No doubt a segment involving wrestlers hitting another wrestler with a chair to the skull over and over would not be seen on television today. Number 8. The Undertaker vs Shawn Michaels at Bad Blood 1997. Bad Blood 1997 featured one of the most famous matches in WWE history, as the pay-per-view would feature the first ever Hell in a Cell between The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. As well as the match being legendary for the overall quality of the match and introduction of the Hell in a Cell concept, it also featured arguably the greatest debut in WWE history, Kane. But in the match itself, there were several iconic spots, and one of these spots included a brutal chair shot from The Undertaker to the skull of HBK. The chair shot was so loud and so devastating that it received an audible noise of concern from the audience as well as the commentary team.
Michaels is headed, oh my God! Michaels' cranium just got cracked!
Number 7. Triple H vs Cactus Jack at the 2000 Royal Rumble. The street fight between Triple H and Cactus Jack at the 2000 Rumble has been well established for being one of the best matches of both men's respective careers. The match was so good and so important to the career of Triple H that it's still talked about over 20 years later. The street fight featured a dozen ferocious spots, including barbed wire spots and even Triple H pedigreeing Cactus onto thumbtacks. However, in relation to chair shots, 2 specific chair shots in the match stick out to fans. One featured Triple H simply smashing Cactus over the head with a chair and Cactus falling down in a heap as the sound of metal hitting his skull echoed around Madison Square Garden. The second chair shot was when Triple H would hit Cactus so hard across the back that the chair itself would completely break, making it potentially the hardest chair shot to someone's back in WWE history. Number 6. The Undertaker vs Mr. Kennedy at Survivor Series 2006. Survivor Series 2006 was an underwhelming show which failed to live up to prior Survivor Series events, mainly due to the fact that WWE decided not to bring back the SmackDown vs Raw format for the prior year, which fans loved so much. Nevertheless, one of the standout moments from the lackluster show was a first blood match between the legendary Undertaker and SmackDown newcomer Mr. Kennedy. The finish of the match involved MVP interfering and hitting the Undertaker over the head with a chair shot, leading to the Undertaker drawing blood and resulting in Mr. Kennedy unfairly winning the match. This naturally sent the Undertaker in a rage and decided to hit Mr. Kennedy with one of the hardest chair shots. The chair shot was so impactful that it remained on Kennedy's head as he fell to the mat. Speaking to Sportskeeda, Kennedy would discuss the infamous chair shot, revealing, "The chair shot was one of those things that you just got to grit your teeth. It actually wasn't that bad. I've taken worse bumps in my life. It just happened to look good, and also the thing that makes that stand out is the way that Taker held the chair, and when he hit it on my head, it actually opened up, and that looked fantastic." Number 5. The Rock vs Mankind at the 1999 Royal Rumble. Now, this match was one of the most brutal matches in history and certainly isn't the type of match that would be seen on television today. One of the most infamous moments in the match featured The Rock continuously hitting Mankind across the skull with a chair whilst Mankind's hands were handcuffed behind his back, meaning he had no way whatsoever to protect his face. It's truly disturbing to watch even over 20 years later. But Bruce Pritchard would discuss the chair shots in the match on his Something to Wrestle podcast. He would state,
"I don't think that anybody in the foresight really pictured it being as brutal as it was. At the time, it was a story that sounded really great on paper. However, in execution, I think everybody was cringing and going, enough. It was enough in the ring after the first or second chair shot. It should have been over then." Also something that Mick kept getting up, Mick kept, calling for more, and maybe Mick wasn't in his right mind at that time and doesn't even remember that.
Number 4. The Undertaker's chair shot to Maven at the 2002 Royal Rumble. And Maven eliminating The Undertaker at 2002's Rumble was one of the most iconic moments in Rumble history, as nobody saw it coming. As well as being incredibly memorable due to the surprise factor, the post-match reaction of The Undertaker was equally as memorable. Taker was absolutely disgusted that Maven from Tough Enough had eliminated him. So he decided to re-enter the Rumble and make Maven's night a living hell. On the outside, The Undertaker would hit Maven with a sickening unprotected chair shot, which no doubt made Maven doubt whether he was in the right industry. Number 3. Stevie Richards' chair shot to JBL on SmackDown in 2005. Following One Night Stand 2005, JBL wasn't the most popular guy in the locker room. He legitimately assaulted the Blue Meanie during a closing brawl of the pay-per-view and left him a bloody mess, and it just cemented JBL's reputation for being a locker room bully and overall nasty human being. Well, one wrestler who wasn't going to let JBL get away with treating others in this inappropriate manner was Stevie Richards, who decided to hit JBL with one of the hardest chair shots of all time during a match between JBL and the Blue Meanie on SmackDown. The chair shot clearly came from a place of hatred and resentment, which made it even more brutal as a result. Number 2. The Rock's chair shot to Ken Shamrock on Raw. The feud between The Rock and Ken Shamrock was one of the best feuds of the entire Attitude Era and really helped take The Rock to the next level. But one of the best segments in the feud involved Shamrock trying to show The Rock and the Nation of Domination just how tough he was by allowing The Rock to hit him with an unprotected chair shot whilst Shamrock was down on his knees. The chair shot would hit Shamrock square in the face rather than on the top of his head, which made it extremely hard to watch.
Use it as a weapon before. Oh! Did you hear that?
Shamrock would discuss the infamous chair shot during an interview with Chris Van Vliet and state, "We were in the back and we were going through some spots. We were going to do the chair shot. I didn't like chair shots. I looked at The Rock and I said, 'Hey man, if we do the chair shot, just hit me in the face.' And he looked at me and goes, 'I'm not going to hit you in the face.' I said, 'Dude, hit me in the face. I'll take care of the rest.' I don't think he did." And number 1, Eddie Guerrero vs JBL at 2004's Judgment Day. The feud between Eddie and JBL in 2004 helped solidify JBL as a main event heel, as well as being someone that the fans could take seriously as WWE champion. The first match in the feud took place at 2004's Judgment Day pay-per-view, and it became one of the bloodiest matches in history. At one point in the match, JBL would hit Eddie with a chair shot that most fans associate for being the hardest and most brutal chair shot of all time. And we mean it this time. It was made even more brutal thanks to the fact that Eddie would execute a blade job that went far too deep, meaning the next time the camera was on Eddie, blood was literally oozing from his head. Bruce Pritchard would reveal on his podcast that Eddie lost so much blood during the incident that he had no choice but to attend hospital to ensure that he was going to be okay, and he suffered no long-term damage. But there you have it, folks. 10 of the most sickening chair shots in WWE history. Are there any other chair shots that we missed out? Let us know in the comments down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook for exclusive lists. And I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.